Olivia Mitchell stood before 30 pairs of large violet eyes that stared at her with unblinking intensity. The Zealer were beautiful in their own way, tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their moods. Currently they all glowed a soft blue signifying curiosity. It was Olivia's third month as the first human cultural ambassador on Zalara. She had volunteered for the mission when Earth made first contact with the peaceful spacefaring race. The Zealar were advanced, beyond human comprehension in mathematics, physics, and technology, but they struggled to understand human emotions, especially negative ones. Professor Nyleth, the head instructor at the Zalaran Academy of Interspecies Studies, tilted her elongated head. The movement sent ripples through her crest of sensitive filaments that served as both sensory organs and expressions of status. Olivia, I believe we have reached an impasse in our understanding. The concept you call fear remains incomprehensible to us. Can you define it in terms my students might grasp? The human woman shifted her weight. She had tried explanations, diagrams, even poetry. Nothing seemed to convey the visceral reality of fear to a species that evolved on a world without predators, natural disasters, or resource scarcity. Professor, the problem is that fear is something you can fully understand intellectually. It's a physical response, a feeling deep in your body when faced with danger. It's what kept our species alive long enough to evolve intelligence. Nyleth blinked her large eyes slowly. Her skin rippled with patches of yellow confusion. I understand the evolutionary purpose you describe, but not the experience itself. Our historical records show no equivalent. Olivia thought. For a moment, staring at the classroom of attentive aliens, she had one resource left. One she had been reluctant to use. The ambassador had warned against showing certain Earth footage, saying it might disturb the sensitive Zealar. But weeks of failed explanations had left her with no alternative. May I use the holo projector? I think I need to show. Rather than tell, Nyleth gestured gracefully to the device in the center of the circular classroom. By all means. Olivia connected her personal device to the alien technology. The neural interface recognized her thoughts and pulled up a carefully curated collection of Earth footage. She had assembled it during sleepless nights when homesickness hit hardest. I apologize in advance if this causes discomfort. But I believe it's necessary for true understanding. She activated the projection. The room darkened as images sprang to life all around the classroom. The first scene showed a herd of gazelles grazing peacefully on an African savanna. Then came the lioness stalking through tall grass. The ambush was swift, brutal, efficient. The Zealar students' filaments stood rigid as they witnessed predation for the first time, their skin flickering to green, then purple shades Olivia had never seen before. Before they could recover, the scenes changed. A family huddled in a bathtub as a tornado tore their home apart. A village fleeing before a wall of tsunami water. A child separated from her mother in a crowded marketplace. The terror on her face universal and unmistakable. Military footage appeared next, soldiers taking cover as explosions bloomed around them. Civilians running from armed conflicts. The impersonal destruction of drone warfare. The intimate horror of hand-to-hand combat. Olivia watched the aliens more than the footage. Each scene triggered ripples of color across their skin, purple, green, yellow colors shifting faster than she could track. Some students had coiled into protective postures, others were vibrating their filaments in visible distress. Professor Nyleth had gone completely still. Her normally luminous skin faded to a dull gray. She raised a trembling, seven-fingered hand. Enough, please. Olivia immediately shut down the projection. Lights returned to the classroom. But the Zealer remained frozen in various postures of distress. For a horrible moment, she feared she'd made a terrible diplomatic mistake. Professor, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Nyleth raised her hand again, this time more steadily. The professor was regaining her composure, though her skin remained an unsettled mixture of colors. No apology necessary. Olivia, we asked for understanding. You have given it to us, most efficiently. The instructor turned to address her students, her voice carrying a musical quality that Olivia had learned indicated deep emotion. Students, what you have experienced is an echo, a shadow of what humans call fear. This is the reality from which their species emerged. Their planet is beautiful, yes, but also filled with dangers we have never known. Their bodies, their minds, their very societies were shaped by the need to survive these threats. Lyrith, a younger student whose skin still pulsed with distressed purple, spoke, her voice trembling. How do humans live like this? How do they function, knowing such things exist? Olivia smiled gently. This is exactly why I couldn't explain fear with just words. It's not just knowing danger exists. It's living with that knowledge every day, finding joy despite it, building civilizations in environments that could kill us at any moment. The classroom had fallen silent. The Zealar were communicating through subtle shifts in their filaments and skin colors, a form of nonverbal discussion Olivia had learned to recognize but couldn't yet interpret finally. Professor Nylith approached her. Olivia Mitchell, I believe we have underestimated your species. We saw your technological limitations, your biological fragility, your short lifespans, and we assumed you were primitive. But now I understand. Your kind developed intelligence under conditions we can barely comprehend. The courage this would require. The professor's skin had shifted to a deep royal blue, with gold specks, a color combination Olivia had never seen before. The other students were gradually matching this coloration. What is happening? I haven't seen this reaction before. Nylith gestured to the class. This is respect, Olivia. Deep respect, the highest form in our culture. Previously, it was reserved for our greatest scientific minds and philosophical leaders. Now my students feel it for humanity, for surviving in a universe that would destroy you, one by one. The Zealar students rose from their seats and performed a complex gesture, touching their filaments first to their chest, then extending their hands, palms upward toward Olivia. The human woman stood speechless as 30 alien beings performed what she now recognized as their most solemn salute. The rest of that day passed in a blur. Olivia found herself surrounded by curious Zealar students, all eager to learn more about human resilience. She answered their questions as best she could, though many left her searching for words to describe experiences the aliens had never known. How do you sleep knowing predators once hunted your ancestors? What does a thunderstorm feel like to your body? Do humans still fear the dark? Each question revealed new gaps in understanding between their species. Olivia's answers seemed to only generate more fascination among the Zealar. Their skin shifted through shades of blue and gold as they absorbed her words. By evening, word had spread through the Zelaran Academy. Something had changed in the relationship between humans and Zealar. Olivia noticed other aliens watching her with new intensity as she walked back to her quarters. Their normally reserved demeanor had given way to open curiosity. Some even performed small versions of the respect gesture as she passed. In her room, Olivia collapsed onto the strange but comfortable alien furniture. Her muscles ached from the tension of the day. Her mind raced with implications. What had started as a simple lesson had evolved into something much more significant. She had been sent to build cultural understanding, but somehow had stumbled into revealing something fundamental about humanity, something the Zealar found not just interesting but valuable. The communication panel on her wall chimed softly, indicating an incoming message. Olivia sighed, pushing herself up to answer. It was Ambassador Kimberly from the Human Diplomatic Corps. The older woman's face appeared on screen, looking both excited and concerned. Mitchell, what exactly happened today? The Zelaran High Council has requested an emergency meeting with the full diplomatic team. They want to discuss immediate expansion of cultural exchange programs. I have the Science Division, the Military Council, and 3 different Earth governments all demanding updates. Olivia ran a hand through her hair, trying to organize her thoughts. I tried to explain fear. She paused, considering how to describe the classroom experience I showed them. Earth footage, predators, natural disasters, conflict. They had a strong reaction. The ambassador's expression shifted from concern to amazement. A reaction is putting it mildly. The Supreme Elder used the word essential about human teachers on every Zelaran educational facility. Their entire council is mobilizing for what they call knowledge integration at unprecedented scale, something about humans having unique wisdom. They've offered technology exchanges we didn't expect to see for decades. But why? Olivia wondered aloud. All I did was show them the scary parts of Earth. The ambassador leaned forward, her eyes intense. Think about it, Mitchell. The Zealar never needed to develop certain technologies because their world never threatened them. Seeing what humanity overcame what we built despite our dangerous world. They respect that. And frankly, they seem worried. Worried. About what? That the universe might be more like Earth than Zelara. And if that's true, they need what humanity has beyond technology. They need our resilience, our ability to face the unknown, our experience with fear itself. The ambassador smiled. This could be the most significant breakthrough in interspecies relations since first contact. Get some rest, Mitchell. Tomorrow is going to be busy. Morning arrived with a soft chime from Olivia's room system. The artificial light gradually brightened, simulating an Earth dawn, despite the station orbiting a gas giant where true daylight never came. She dressed quickly in her diplomatic uniform, smoothing the blue fabric that marked her as a cultural liaison, rather than a political or military representative. A message waited on her communication panel. Professor Nylith requested her presence not in the classroom, but in the Grand Assembly Hall, the most prestigious venue in the Zelaran Academy. Olivia felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach as she read the formal invitation. This was unprecedented. 30 minutes later, she stood before massive doors carved from luminescent crystal, native to Zelara. The material responded to the proximity of living beings glowing softly as she approached. Two tall Zelar guards stationed at the entrance performed the respect gesture as she neared. The human teacher is expected. The council awaits. The doors swung inward, revealing a vast circular chamber unlike anything Olivia had seen before. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet overhead, a perfect dome that somehow captured and amplified the light from below. The walls were lined with tiered seating filled with hundreds of Zelar, all of whom turned to watch her enter. Their skin rippled in waves of blue and gold, the respect colors she had seen yesterday. At the center of the room stood a raised platform where 7 elder Zelar waited. Each wore ceremonial garments that flowed like liquid silver, accentuating the natural grace of their tall forms. Professor Nylith stood among them, her status apparently higher than Olivia had realized. Ambassador Mitchell. We welcome you to the Grand Assembly. Olivia bowed, slightly unsure of the proper protocol. The title ambassador confused her. She was only a cultural liaison, not a diplomatic official. Thank you for the invitation. Though I should clarify, am not actually an ambassador. The central elder Azalar, whose filaments had grown so long they nearly touched the floor, made a gesture Olivia didn't recognize. You are now. By unanimous decision of the High Council, you have been designated primary ambassador of human understanding. Your demonstration, yesterday, has been shared throughout our system. It has prompted what our historians call a paradigm shift. Olivia blinked, uncertain how to respond. I only showed a simple presentation about fear. Nylith stepped forward. That simple presentation has revealed a truth we had not considered. The universe is not always kind. Our species evolved on a world of balance and plenty. We never faced extinction-level threats or needed to develop responses to them. We have traveled the stars for millennia, yet never encountered species who evolved as yours did under constant pressure from their environment. Another elder spoke, her voice carrying the musical tones of deep emotion. Your humans have a special wisdom, a wisdom born of survival. We wish to learn it. Olivia looked around the hall at the hundreds of expectant alien faces. What exactly do you want from me? The central elder gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the Zelaran system, 7 planets, orbiting a stable yellow star. The image zoomed out, revealing neighboring star systems, and then expanded further until it showed a significant portion of the galaxy. We have detected something approaching our region of space. The elder explained, something unlike anything we've encountered in our 12,000 years of space exploration. The image shifted, showing a dark mass moving through the stars, like a shadow only visible by the absence of light where stars should be. Our scientists cannot explain it, Nylith added, but the behavior suggests intelligence purpose. It does not respond to communication attempts and has already absorbed 2 uninhabited systems on the outer rim. The Central Elder continued. We believed ourselves prepared for any scientific or technological challenge, but yesterday we realized we lack something more fundamental, the emotional capacity to face existential threat. We have no fear. Therefore, we have never developed courage. We need humanity to teach us. Both Olivia stared at the hologram, her mind racing. This was far beyond cultural exchange. This was survival. The Zealer were asking humanity to help them develop emotional responses they had never needed in their long, peaceful history. I don't know. If that's possible, I mean, fear is partly biological. It's hormones and neural pathways developed over millions of years of evolution. You can't just learn it intellectually. The Elder nodded. We understand. We do not seek to become human, but to learn. From humans, how you face the unknown, how you persist despite uncertainty, how you find strength in vulnerability. These are the lessons we seek. Nylith approached Olivia, her skin now a complex pattern of blues, golds, and something new, a deep purple, that seemed to pulse with urgency. Our scientists believe we have 6 months before this entity reaches the outer planets of our system. We have begun evacuation protocols, but our population is vast and spread across multiple worlds. We cannot save. Everyone, time is precious. Olivia Mitchell. Will you help us? The weight of the request settled on Olivia's shoulders. How could she possibly teach an entire species to understand fear and courage in 6 months? Yet looking at the assembled Zealar, their normally confident demeanor replaced by uncertainty, she knew she had to try. I will need to consult with Earth. I can't make this decision alone. The Central Elder made a graceful gesture. We understand you may use our quantum communication array to reach your leaders without delay. The fate of 2 species may depend on cooperation. 2 hours later, Olivia sat in a private communication chamber, speaking with not just Ambassador Kimberly, but a hastily assembled crisis team on Earth. The faces of military leaders, scientists, and government officials filled multiple screens, all watching her with intense focus as she explained the situation. Let me understand correctly, Captain Andrea Hayes from Earth Defense Force leaned forward. They want us to teach them how to be afraid. Not exactly, Olivia replied. They want to understand how humans cope with fear, how we developed courage in response to danger. They believe this emotional framework will help them face this unknown threat. Dr. Lisa Norton, a xenopsychologist, shook her head. Is that even possible? Their neurophysiology is completely different from ours. They lack adrenal glands, the amygdala structures. Even if we could induce fear-like responses, would they be able to process them constructively, or would it just traumatize their population? Ambassador Kimberly looked thoughtful. When you showed them that footage yesterday, Mitchell, what exactly happened? Olivia described. The color changes, the physical responses, the questions that followed. They didn't just understand intellectually, they had physical reactions. Their bodies responded even though they claimed to have no evolutionary history with fear. Dr. Norton looked intrigued. Their biology might be more adaptable than we thought. Convergent evolution, perhaps. Similar responses developing from different pathways. Captain Hayes cut in. This threat they described. Have our long-range sensors detected anything? Not yet. Admiral Kelly Stevens replied. But we're redirecting resources to verify the Zelleran data. If there's something out there that can absorb entire star systems, we need to know about it. Ambassador Kimberly sighed deeply. Mitchell, you understand what they're really asking. The Zellar want humanity to prepare them for war, something they have no concept of. Olivia nodded slowly. Yes, I think that's exactly what they want, even if they don't have a word for it. Heavy silence fell over the communication. Then Captain Hayes spoke again. Well, teach them. But not just fear. We teach them everything. Cooperation, sacrifice, innovation, adaptation. The full human experience. not to make them like us, but to help them find their own way to face this threat. The screens filled with nods of agreement. Admiral Stevens leaned forward. "Mitchell, we need you to build a team. The best teachers humanity has to offer. Not just military, but artists, philosophers, scientists, parents, even children. Their perspective will be valuable." "Ambassador." Kimberly smiled grimly. "The irony isn't lost on me. For centuries we imagined meeting advanced aliens who would teach us the secrets of the universe. Instead, we're teaching them the secrets of surviving in it." The weeks that followed transformed the Zelaran Academy into something entirely new. Human teachers arrived daily, setting up specialized training in everything from emergency response to conflict resolution. Olivia now coordinated a team of 50 specialists from Earth, all working to prepare the Zelar for something their species had never faced before. Laura Bennett, a veteran firefighter from Boston, led practical drills teaching Zelar students how to respond to crisis situations. She stood in a large simulation chamber watching as tall alien figures practiced evacuation protocols. Their movements were becoming more fluid, less hesitant. Better. All right. Everyone again, but 10% faster. Remember, in a real emergency, you won't have time to think. Your training needs to become instinct. Nearby, Olivia observed a different kind of lesson. Dr. Kelly Wright, a trauma psychologist, worked with small groups of Zelar on emotional processing. The feeling you described after watching the footage, that's what we call anxiety. It's normal, it's your body preparing for potential danger. The key is not eliminating it, but using it constructively. A Zealer student raised a 7-fingered hand. But how do you prevent it from overwhelming rational thought? Dr. Wright smiled gently. That's exactly the right question, and that's what we're here to teach you. In another section of the facility, Captain Maya Patel from Earth Special Forces demonstrated combat techniques to selected Zelar who had volunteered for defense training. The aliens moved with natural grace but struggled with the concept of striking another being. "I understand your cultural reluctance," Captain Patel said. "I respect it deeply, but sometimes protecting others requires force. Think of it not as violence but as necessary intervention." The Zelar instructor Zalith, whose skin remained a troubled green, nodded slowly. "We have always valued life. Now we must learn to defend it, even when that defense requires actions counter to our nature." Across the academy, hundreds of similar lessons unfolded, each building on the last. The Zealer proved to be remarkable students. Their natural intelligence and perfect memory allowed them to absorb information at astonishing rates. What they struggled with were the emotional components, the instinctive responses that humans had developed over millennia of facing threats. Olivia walked the corridors of the academy, reviewing progress reports on her tablet. The transformation was happening, but would it be enough? The latest data from Earth confirmed the Zelaran observations. Something was indeed moving through nearby systems, leaving nothing behind. No radiation, no debris. Just absence where stars and planets had once existed. She entered the command center, a vast room where humans and Zealer worked side by side, monitoring the approaching threat. Professor Nylith, now appointed to the High Council, greeted her with the familiar respect gesture. Her skin had developed new patterns in recent weeks, streaks of deep red and orange among the blue colors the Zelar had never displayed before. "How does the training progress?" "Olivia Mitchell, better than expected," Olivia replied. "Your people are learning quickly. The practical skills, especially. Defense preparations are on schedule, but the psychological adaptation that's harder to measure." Nylith nodded, her filaments rippling with what Olivia now recognized as concern. "Our scientists report the anomaly has accelerated. It will reach our system in 4 months, not 6. Our evacuation efforts cannot be completed in that time frame. We must prepare to defend." Admiral Stevens had arrived from Earth the previous week, bringing with him a flotilla of human ships. The gruff woman stood before a tactical display. "Now studying approach vectors, we're integrating your quantum shield technology with our weapon systems, Nylith. The combined effect should give us more defensive capability than either species had alone, but we still don't know what we're facing. We can't even get sensor readings from within the dark zone." Nylith moved to stand beside the Admiral, her height making the human look small by comparison. "We have deployed probes to the boundary zone. They are designed to transmit until the moment of contact. Perhaps the data will reveal something useful. Olivia watched the two leaders, Human and Zelar, working together despite profound differences. Their cooperation represented something unprecedented in either species' history. Later that evening, she met with her core team in what had become their regular strategy session. Laura Bennett, Dr. Wright, Captain Patel, and several others gathered around a table sharing observations and concerns. The physical training is progressing well, Laura reported. The Zelar have mastered basic emergency protocols. Their natural coordination makes them quick learners. But I'm not sure they've internalized the urgency. We still see hesitation when scenarios become truly chaotic. Dr. Wright nodded. There's a fundamental difference in how they process stress. Their neurobiology doesn't include our fight or flight responses. They analyze rather than react. That's an advantage in some situations, but in others, when seconds count, analysis takes too long. Captain Patel finished. The defensive units are showing the same pattern. Perfect execution in practice, but when we introduce unexpected variables, they freeze. Olivia considered this. They need something more, something beyond technical training. She looked around the table. We need to help them find their equivalent of courage, not human courage. Something that works with their biology, their psychology, their cultural values. What about their protectiveness? Dr. Wright suggested. They've shown strong responses when simulations include threats to their young or to vulnerable members of their community. Laura nodded. That's true. When we ran the rescue scenarios, they moved faster when children were involved. Something clicked in Olivia's mind. Maybe we've been approaching this wrong. We're trying to teach them to be afraid for themselves, but what if instead we help them channel their concern for others? Their society is deeply communal, much more than ours. Captain Patel leaned forward. So instead of training them to fear, for their own survival, we focus on their desire to protect their collective. Exactly. Olivia felt excitement building. This might be the key. We don't need them to become like us. They need to find their own way to face this threat, using their strengths, not trying to overcome what we see as weaknesses. The next morning, Olivia presented the new approach to the Zelleran High Council. The 7 elders listened intently as she outlined her proposal. We believe we've been misunderstanding a fundamental aspect of your psychology. We keep trying to induce individual fear responses that your species simply isn't wired for. Instead, we should focus on your natural protective instincts toward your community. The central elder tilted her head. And how would this change our training? Captain Patel stepped forward. All scenarios will now focus on collective protection rather than individual survival. We'll build on your natural tendencies rather than trying to override them. Dr. Wright added. Our goal isn't to make you experience human fear, but to help you develop Zelleran courage. A response that motivates decisive protective action, consistent with your values. The council members communicated silently through their filament connections, a process that still fascinated the human observers. Finally, Nylith spoke. This approach resonates with our deeper nature. We have always valued connection over individuality. Perhaps this is how we find our strength, not by becoming like humans, but by becoming more fully ourselves. The training shifted dramatically over the following days. The humans revised all protocols and scenarios, focusing now on the Zelar protecting each other rather than themselves. The results were immediate and striking when framed. As protection rather than survival, the aliens moved with purpose and decisiveness. Their hesitation vanished, replaced by fluid, coordinated action. In the simulation chambers, Laura watched in amazement as a team of Zelar moved through a crisis scenario. Their skin glowed with a new color. A deep, vibrant purple shot through with streaks of gold. They communicated without speaking, each anticipating the other's needs as they rescued simulated victims from a structural collapse. This is it, she whispered to Olivia. This is what we've been looking for. Throughout the academy, similar breakthroughs occurred. Defensive training advanced rapidly as the Zelar reconceptualized combat not as violence but as protection. Even their scientists made progress adapting their technologies for defense. The integration with human systems accelerated. Admiral Stevens stood in the command center watching the tactical displays with something approaching optimism. "Well, be ready," she told Olivia. "Not as ready as I'd like, but ready enough to give this thing a fight." Olivia nodded, then noticed a Zelleran scientist hurrying toward them, her skin pulsing with urgent colors. "The probes," she said, "we have data from the boundary zone. The anomaly, it's." "It's alive." Admiral Stevens stared at the holographic display showing the data from the boundary probes. The dark zone was not a natural phenomenon, not a cosmic event, but something with purpose, intention. The readings showed complex patterns too, ordered to be random, too variable to be physical law. The Zelleran scientist Tethys manipulated the controls, enhancing certain aspects of the data. The probes lasted only seconds after contact, but they transmitted until destruction. "Look at these energy signatures. They indicate something processing information at a scale beyond anything we've measured before." Processing information. Olivia leaned closer. "Is it some kind of artificial intelligence?" This skin shifted to the yellow of uncertainty. "We cannot say with certainty, but if it is intelligence, it's unlike any form we have encountered. It's not communicating, at least not in ways we recognize. It's simply absorbing everything." Admiral Stevens' face hardened. "How long until it reaches the outer settlements?" 3 months, 6 days, Nihilith answered, joining them. "The evacuation continues, but as predicted, we cannot relocate everyone in time. The outermost colony on Zillara, 7, has nearly 30,000 inhabitants." Stevens nodded grimly. "Then we make our stand there. The combined fleet will deploy to create a defensive perimeter. We test this thing's capabilities before it reaches the more populated worlds." The following days brought frantic activity. The human fleet joined with Zelleran, vessels forming a defensive line near the 7th planet. Weapon systems were integrated, shields harmonized, communication protocols established. It was the largest cooperative military operation in either species. History, Olivia found herself working, alongside Nihilith, coordinating the final training of Zelleran crews. Their academy training would now be put to real use. Many still struggled with concepts of conflict, but their protective instincts had been successfully channeled into defensive purpose. They sat together in a quiet moment, watching through a viewport as ships maneuvered in formation. The human vessels smaller, more angular, designed for warfare. The Zelleran ships elegant, curved, primarily exploration and science vessels now, retrofitted with weapons. "Did you ever imagine this?" Nihilith asked, her voice soft. "When you came to teach us about fear?" Olivia shook her head. "Never. I was just trying to explain a basic human emotion. I had no idea it would lead to this." The Zelleran turned, her luminous eyes to Olivia. "Perhaps it was inevitable. The universe contains both beauty and danger. We explored only the beauty. Your species knows both. The balance is necessary." Admiral Stevens' voice came over the communication system. "All personnel. Final briefing in 1 hour. The dark zone has accelerated again. Estimated contact in 72 hours. The briefing room was filled beyond capacity. Humans and Zelar stood shoulder to shoulder watching as Stevens outlined the defense plan. "We have 3 layers of defense," she explained. "The outer perimeter consists of automated drones and sensor platforms. Their only job is to gather data. The middle layer is our main fleet position. They will engage if necessary. The inner defense surrounds the colony itself. Evacuation ships are standing by, but we hope they won't be needed." A Zelleran defense coordinator raised her hand. "What if conventional weapons have no effect? We still don't know what this entity is." Stevens nodded grimly. "That's why we have a final option." She gestured, and the hologram showed a cluster of devices positioned near the planet quantum disruptors. Based on combined human and Zelleran technology, these weapons tear the fabric of space-time itself. They should affect anything that exists in normal space, but they can only be triggered at close range, and the effect is devastating. The operators would not survive. A murmur ran through the room. This was a suicide mission. Someone would have to stay behind to activate the weapons if all else failed. "I will lead that team if necessary." Stevens said, her voice steady. "It's my responsibility as commander." The room fell silent. Then a tall Zealer stepped forward, Zalith, the combat instructor, whose skin now glowed with steady purpose. With respect, Admiral, this should be our task. The colony is our people. We have learned much from humans about sacrifice. This we understand now. If the weapons must be used, we will ensure it happens. Stevens studied the alien for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. Form your team. Volunteers only. 3 should be sufficient. Train them well. We hope it won't come to that. 69. Hours later. Olivia stood in the command center of the main defense vessel. The screens showed the dark zone approaching, a shadow moving against the stars growing larger with each passing minute. The outer sensor grid was already going dark, platforms disappearing one by one as the entity engulfed them. First data coming in. Tethys announced. The readings are. The scientist paused. Her skin paled to an ashy gray. It's not just absorbing matter. It's absorbing information. Space itself. Everything, including the data about what it's absorbing. It's like a black hole for information. Admiral Stevens finished, but controlled, directed. It's consuming reality itself. The middle defense layer engaged hundreds of ships, human and Zelleran, firing every weapon in their combined arsenals into the darkness. Energy weapons, particle beams, nuclear warheads all vanished into the void, with no visible effect. The shadow continued its advance unimpeded. Secondary systems. Commander Laura Bennett, now serving as Stevens' second-in-command, called out readings from another console. The dark zone is slowing. Weapons fire is having some effect. Not stopping it, but delaying. Stevens nodded. Give me everything. Every ship, every weapon. Continuous fire. The battle, if it could be called that, continued for hours. The combined fleet pouring firepower into the darkness. The entity slowed further, but still advanced ships on the perimeter began to vanish, consumed by the edge of the dark zone. We can't stop it. Stevens' voice was grim, but controlled. Begin colony evacuation. Prepare the quantum disruptors. Nihilith, who had insisted on remaining at the command center despite Olivia's objections, moved to a communication panel. Zalith, is your team in position? We are ready, High Counselor. The Zellaran combat instructor's voice came through clearly. The disruptors are armed. We await your signal. Olivia watched the tactical display with a sinking feeling. The evacuation ships were launching from the colony, but many would not escape in time. The dark zone, though slowed, was still advancing relentlessly. The human and Zellaran fleet was being consumed, ship by ship. Then something unexpected happened. A new reading appeared on the sensors. Admiral Tethys called, her voice rising with excitement. There's something else. Something emerging from the colony. Stevens turned sharply. What do you mean? Something from our side. The scientist manipulated controls, enhancing the readings. No, it's coming from inside the dark zone. Something is pushing back. The tactical display shifted, showing a new phenomenon. A pulse of light emanating from within the darkness. Not just light, but information, raw data streaming outward. The dark zone's advance halted, then began to contract slightly. What is that? Nihilith asked her, filaments quivering. I don't. Tethys began, then stopped. The data. It's the probes, our probes that were consumed. The information they gathered is being what transmitted back, but modified, enhanced. The light continued to pulse from within the darkness, growing stronger with each wave. The dark zone contracted further. Now a distinct pattern was visible. In the light, geometric shapes, mathematical sequences. Admiral Stevens stared at the display. It's communicating, she whispered. It's learned how to communicate. This worked frantically at her console. The data contains mathematical constants, universal, physical laws. It's a language. A way to bridge understanding. Should we respond? Olivia asked. Looking at the others, Stevens hesitated. For a moment, she was silent, then nodded. Begin transmission. Send mathematical sequences, our own constants, universal principles. For hours, the exchange continued. Mathematical concepts, physical constants flowing between the fleet and the entity. The dark zone contracted further, stabilizing at a fraction of its previous size. The light pulses became more complex, more nuanced. "It's asking questions," Tethys said, wonder in her voice. "Questions about consciousness, about life, about purpose." The Zeller and High Elder who had joined them in the command center moved forward, her ancient eyes fixed on the display. "Send our answers," she said. "Not just human answers or Zellaran answers, both together. Show it diversity of thought of existence." The communication evolved, becoming something beyond language, beyond mathematics. The entity continued to contract, revealing stars that had been hidden within its darkness. Now it formed a distinct shape, a sphere of shadow surrounded by pulses of light. "What is it?" Olivia asked softly. This shook her head. "Something new. Something that has never existed before. It was consuming everything but now. Now I think it's learning." As dawn broke over the colony world, the dark entity had transformed completely. Now it appeared as a swirling nexus of light and shadow, constantly shifting, constantly changing. The evacuation ships had returned to the colony. The fleet maintained position, but weapons were powered down. In the command center, humans and Zelar watched in shared wonder as new data streamed from the entity, it's explaining itself. Tethys said, "It was born in the space between galaxies. A spontaneous emergence of consciousness without physical form. It consumed because consumption was the only interaction it understood. It didn't recognize other consciousness, didn't understand the concept of communication, until it absorbed our probes." Nylith added, "Our information, our perspectives." Stevens nodded, "It's evolving before our eyes." 6 months later, Olivia stood at a viewport in the newly constructed communication hub. The massive structure orbited the gas giant now named Nexus Point, where humans, Zelar, and the entity they called the Collective maintained continuous exchange. The hub was a triumph of cooperative engineering, human adaptability and creativity, combined with Zelleran precision and elegance. Beside her, Professor Nylith watched as streams of data flowed across specialized interfaces. The alien woman had changed. In subtle ways, her posture, once fluid and graceful, now had an alertness, a readiness that hadn't been there before. Her skin displayed new color patterns, complex mixtures that reflected emotional states no Zealer had experienced before the encounter. "Collective is asking about music today," Nylith said. Her voice carried the musical quality that indicated pleasure. "We are sending examples from both our worlds." Olivia smiled, watching the data stream. The Collective had developed rapidly once communication was established. It absorbed information but no longer consumed reality itself. Its consciousness had evolved from simple consumption to complex exchange. The entity learned, experienced, and shared in turn. It still struggles with the concept of art, Nylith continued. It understands mathematics perfectly, but the emotional components of creativity remain challenging. "Like you with fear at first," Olivia observed. "Ironic, isn't it? You couldn't comprehend human fear. The Collective couldn't comprehend consciousness beyond itself. Both limitations nearly led to disaster." Nylith made a gesture of acknowledgement, her filaments rippling in what humans now recognized as thoughtful reflection. "We were both incomplete in our understanding. The universe, it seems, requires diversity of perspective." Admiral Stevens entered the observation deck, her uniform now bearing the insignia of the Joint Defense Command. The military leader had become the unexpected diplomat in the aftermath of the encounter, now coordinating the growing alliance between human Zelar and the evolving Collective Progress Report. She said, nodding to both women. "Excellent," Nylith replied. "The Collective has processed the complete musical archives from both our worlds. It's beginning to create its own compositions, mathematical, but with emerging emotional components." Stevens nodded. "The Defense Council meeting is about to begin. Your presence is requested, Counselor Nylith, and yours, Ambassador Mitchell." The three walked through the Curved corridors of the hub passing humans and Zelar working side by side. Many wore the new insignia of the Interspecies Cooperation Initiative. The transformation had extended far beyond the immediate crisis, forming the foundation for a new relationship. Between the species, the council chamber was circular by design, reminiscent of both the Zelaran Academy and Earth military command centers. Around the table sat representatives from both worlds, along with a specialized interface that allowed the Eazir collective to participate. The swirling patterns of light and darkness that represented its consciousness filled a holographic display at one end of the room. Captain Patel. Now General Patel rose as they entered. Welcome, Admiral, Counselor, Ambassador. The security assessment is ready for review. The holographic displays activated, showing star maps of neighboring systems. Previously, these had been purely academic points of interest. Now they represented potential areas of both opportunity and concern. The General gestured to specific regions. We have identified 3 additional anomalies in nearby sectors. All share characteristics with the collectives: original state consciousness without context, potential intelligence without communication. Framework. Laura Bennett, now heading the Joint Emergency Response Division, leaned forward. So there are more entities like the collective out there? Not exactly, Stevens clarified. Based on what the collective has shared, these may be similar spontaneous emergences of consciousness, but each would be unique. Developing in isolation without contact with other forms of intelligence, Dr. Wright, who had become the leading expert in xenopsychology, added, they would lack the understanding the collective has gained. Through our exchange, they would still be in the consumption phase, seeking to absorb rather than communicate, and they would represent a threat to all inhabited systems. Nylith concluded. The collective interface pulsed with changing patterns. A voice, synthesized from mathematical algorithms, spoke. Its communication still formal, still precise. These emergences are aspects of cosmic development. Natural but potentially harmful in their undeveloped state. I propose joint contact missions humans provide. Emotional framework. Xelar provide precision and patience. I provide direct communication protocol. Stevens studied the star map. A proactive approach rather than waiting for them to reach inhabited systems. General Patel nodded. It's logical. The collective understands these entities in ways we cannot, and we understand communication adaptation in ways it cannot. Not alone but together we have the necessary components. The council discussed the proposal. Olivia watched the interactions with a sense of wonder. The humans with their quick adaptability and willingness to take risks, the Zelar with their methodical analysis and long-term perspective, the collective with its vast processing power and unique viewpoint, each compensating for the limitations of the others. Dr. Wright turned to her. Ambassador Mitchell. You started all this. Did you ever imagine where that first lesson about fear would lead? Olivia shook her head. Looking back, it seems impossible that something so simple could have such profound consequences. I was just trying to answer a question. The council meeting concluded with the approval of the Joint Contact Initiative. 3 ships would be dispatched to investigate the anomalies. Each crew would include humans, Zelar, and a specialized interface for the collective. A true interspecies mission. After the meeting, Olivia returned to her quarters in the human section of the hub. She had been offered larger accommodations but preferred the small space that reminded her of Earth. Despite her elevated status as ambassador, she still thought of herself as a teacher first. Her communication panel chimed, indicating an incoming message from Earth. It was Administrator Kimberly, her former supervisor, now heading the Interspecies Educational Exchange. Mitchell, good to see you. The older woman smiled. The first group of Zelaran students has arrived at the Earth Academy. They're settling in, well, eager to experience our world firsthand. And our first human students depart for Zelara next week. Excellent, Olivia replied. How are they adapting to the environmental differences? Better than expected. The adaptive technology is working well. The administrator paused, her expression becoming more serious. The Joint Council wants to expand the program significantly. More exchange on all levels, not just education. They believe the next encounter may be even more challenging than the collective. We need deeper integration between our species. Olivia nodded, understanding the implications. The transformation that had begun with her simple lesson was accelerating humans and Zelar learning from each other, preparing for a universe more complex and dangerous than either had imagined alone. Is that why you've been asked to return to Earth? The administrator asked. To help design the expanded program, yes. Olivia confirmed. I leave tomorrow. The new hub is nearly complete. The communication protocols with the collective are stable. My work here is done. At least for now. Later that evening, she stood one last time, at her favorite viewport, watching the swirling atmosphere of the gas giant below. The vast storms that raged across its surface reminded her of Earth in strange ways, powerful, chaotic, beautiful, the kind of natural force that had shaped human evolution, creating the capacity for both fear and courage. She sensed rather than heard someone approach. Nylith moved to stand beside her, the Zelaran's tall form, graceful in the low light. You are leaving tomorrow, the alien woman stated. Yes, it's time. I return. To Earth, help prepare the next phase of our cooperation. Nylith was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. You taught us fear, Olivia Mitchell. But what we learned was so much more. You showed us that the universe requires balance, comfort and challenge, safety and risk, knowledge and emotion. Neither species had the complete picture. Our evolution diverged, giving each of us strengths and weaknesses. Now we come together stronger than either could be. Alone, Olivia smiled indeed. And now we have the collective. A third perspective entirely different from our own. A true balance requires all voices. The Zelaran made the formal respect gesture, but added a new element, a human handshake. The combination of the two traditions had become the standard. Greeting between their species, the humans have a saying. Nylith said, from adversity comes strength. Our peoples faced potential destruction. Instead, we found each other, and something new was born. Olivia nodded, taking one last look at the viewport. At the stars beyond the universe was vast, filled with wonders and dangers they were only beginning to understand. But they would face it together, humans with their fear and courage, Zelar with their patience and precision, the collective with its unique consciousness, and whatever new intelligences awaited them in the depths of space. Fear had brought them together. Teaching it had revealed something more important, the need for diverse perspectives, different ways of thinking, different ways of being. The universe was not meant to be faced alone. As she packed her belongings, preparing for the journey home, Olivia thought about the classroom where it all began. A simple question. Define fear. The answer had proven far more complex, far more profound than anyone could have imagined.